Good? All right. All right, thank you for coming in, getting seated, and starting to read. I'm going to just take attendance, and I'll go over our agenda. Yeah. Yeah, no. So here, can you do me a favor? Can you pass these out to the people that weren't here while I'm taking attendance on? So their names are right on the top for me. Good, and thank you for tucking your backpacks in. Okay. Let me go for Nest. Maddie, Madison Riley, and AJ. Did you get plugged in, Michael? Mm-hmm. Okay. Does it need to charge?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So, Madison, you're passing out notebooks. Thank you. If you were absent on Thursday, AJ came around and he gave you the poem that we looked at. Just hold on to that. We'll talk about it a little bit today, but just so you have that. I think we're four of you. All right, good. You guys did such a nice job coming in and getting quiet. I hate to stop you, but I'm going to ask you to take your personal reading books and put those aside for right now. And then I'm going to talk with you about what we're going to be doing today, and then we're going to go ahead and get started.
Excuse me, can you send Evan Brewer to the main office?
Yes, I can. Evan Brewer. So you guys go ahead and get situated, ready to listen. Evan, I'm just writing you a pass real quick. There you go, honey. All right. Did everybody have a nice long weekend? Yeah, I went fast, didn't it? Okay. You guys had 4 days off. That was awesome. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to do a lot of different activities where we're kind of looking at our unit theme. And who can remind me, what's our unit theme again? Mahak? Acceptance, right. All right, so we're going to kind of talk about acceptance. And do you remember what we said, what your group's definition of acceptance was? What did you say that meant? You don't think you were here for that? What do you think acceptance means? Okay, like so you don't have to change people like you for who you are. What were some other definitions we said for acceptance? Yep.
To be included.
To be included. What were you going to say, Allie?
Part of someone.
To be part of something. Right, so we just started that unit, so we don't have a really great, huge understanding of what that means yet. And we're going to look at a lot of different texts that kind of relate to that. And we spent time on Thursday reading an E.E. Cummings poem called Old Age Sticks, and we talked about that a little bit. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through some various activities that kind of relate to our acceptance theme, and looking at how different authors take a similar subject and use different, things like art or informational writing, different things like that to kind of talk about a similar subject, but how do they get their message across? So we'll kind of be focusing on that. So in our writer's notebook today, we're going to do a little bit of word work with some of our vocabulary words we learned last week. And we're also going to take a look at a piece of art, because art can be seen as a text too, something that you view and look at for information and evidence. And then we're actually going to watch a short little clip today, and you'll have a critical viewing question that you will do with your groups. And the big chunk of what we're doing today is going to be reading an article called Stereotypes and the Older Worker. And we're going to be reading that informational piece, looking for key ideas, doing some guiding questions to kind of help us think about this topic and how it kind of fits together, and all these texts kind of work together to help your understanding of our big topic of acceptance. All right, so what I need you guys to do for me right now is open up your writer's notebook if you haven't already done so. And the first group of things we're going to do is going to be table talk. So you're going to be at your tables, and then later on, after that, we'll move to our small groups. Okay. So go ahead and put the date in your notebook. It is 11/12 today, and this is our word work. And there are 2 questions. I put the poem that we looked at on Thursday over here on the side, just so you can see the actual text again as you're answering these questions. The first question relates to that text, so I do ask you and your groups to reread, go back to that as you're answering the question to help you. It says, last week we read the poem Old Age Sticks by E.E. Cummings. What are some ways that the old and young debase one another in this poem? Debase is one of our vocabulary words, so at your table, maybe the first thing you're going to have to do is have a conversation about, what does debase mean? And if we don't know, we might need to get our syllabus out and look at that. And then the second thing, I'm actually going to put a picture at your tables once you start working. There's going to be a painting called Para Siempre by Octavio Ocampo, and using details from this painting, I want you to look at it as a group, kind of critically analyze it, and answer the question, what do you think the artist is saying about the old? Okay, so what you want to do at your tables right now is you want to have a conversation about the first part. What does debase mean? Make sure you all know, and then work together to answer that question. And then I'm going to come around and put the picture on your desk so you can work on that. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, go ahead and get started with your conversations. Yeah, that's good. Okay, here's your picture. There, the question's right there. Here's your Here, you guys, that's your picture. So when you get to that, you guys can look at that.
It means
Here you guys go.
Everything should be like right.
So did you guys figure out what debase means? What does it mean? Okay, so rest of the you. So then you guys have to think of some ways that the old and young debase one another in the poem. So then you gotta look back at the poem and see if you can pull some specific lines from the poem that relates to that. Okay?
You have the poem.
So it's right there, get there, and I have it in the corner too, so you can look at it.
It says, oh.
So are you guys going back? What did you guys figure out debase meant?
Eggs down the
Alright, so bring someone down, and you have to go back and did you guys read the poem again? Did you? Because you have to pull some text from it, some specific examples, right? Okay.
Yeah, they take them low. They don't appreciate them as much.
So you're just thinking of examples right now. Trying. Okay, so you could put that down. Did you guys answer the first question? Okay, and you know what? So what did you guys say debasement? So like to bring down. Okay, so what were some ways that you guys said like the old and the young debasement? Did you guys look back at the poem and do a specific example, like line from it? Okay, how? Okay. Okay, good. And are there any other places in there where you guys could see examples of that? Maybe find another example too. That'd be great. Did you guys define debase? Did you go back to the poem and try to pick a line or a couple examples from the poem of specific places where it looks like people are debasing one another? You did? Okay, so share that maybe with your group, Carl. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So go. Okay. Very good. So did you guys define what debase meant? Good. And then did you guys answer your first question?
The young like make fun of the old, and the old like scold them like all the time. Sort of like
Okay. Did you guys cite like a section from the poem that kind of related to what you guys were talking about?
how like the youth laugh at the old, but then it says like the old scold.
Okay, good. Make sure you guys have that written down for number 1. That's great. Did you guys answer number 1 all the way? So what did you say debase meant?
It means the lower the status or like the lower generation.
Madison, what from the poem did you guys say was an example of debate? Did you have any other places in there? So you had the, which part up here? You had the youth hangs them down, right? And then what was the other part you said? Awesome. Great.
All right, number 2.
Did you guys go back and reread the poem? Come up with some examples from it that's an example of debase?
Oh.
Did you do that one?
Yeah, we did the youth things.
Awesome. All right, is there any other places in the poem maybe that there might be some examples of being debased? What did you say, ourselves?
Maybe he was aiming the guy with the thing, maybe it was bald.
Yeah, that's good elaboration on that first line you guys pulled out. So I would just, once you get done with that second one, I would ask you to maybe kind of reread that poem again and see if there's any other line besides just that one you guys could pull into that, and that would be great. But I like your explanation, definitely, of the first one because it explains what debase means. So good job. Now, you guys, can you listen for just 1 second? When you're looking at that picture, I know you're going to be tempted to like say a lot of things like what you're seeing and things like that. Remember the guiding question, what it's asking you. It's saying, using details from the painting. Okay, that's like taking, like when we take evidence from text, that's the same thing you're doing with this painting. If you say you think this is saying this about the old, you have to back that up with something that you see visually. I went around to the different tables and you did a good job, a lot of you, with the first question, actually taking a line from the E.E. Cummings poem to support what you're thinking. I want you to do the same thing with that painting there. And probably just about another minute and a half, and then I'm going to call on some people to kind of see what your responses are and kind of share our thinking. Okay? So you guys can continue. So are you guys figuring this out? So what are you guys thinking so far? Okay, so remember, then go back to the question where it says, what is the artist's message? And like, what do you think his point of like making this like painting would be? Oh, that's interesting. And then Oh, cool. I like it. All right, very good. Nice work.
Yeah, and then they came
How are you guys doing on this? Good.
files and more.
You are good.
Yeah.
They still have the youth in
Inside of that.
what they've been through, what youth has been through.
How do you know that?
Probably just about another 30 seconds or so. A lot of you are just finishing up your writing of that second question. How are you all doing over here? So, what did you guys say for your second part? You put something. You added something else to that. Sue, what did you say?
Even though like when they grow old together and they see like different generations, they see them.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Make sure you have something from the picture visually to back that thinking up. Okay. How do we do over here? What did you guys say, Anthony?
That the young is still inside the old, because in the picture it shows how the younger versions of them are.
And I think what they're pictures. So
Okay.
we do like how the younger people are trapped inside the old faces.
All right, about 10 seconds.
Cool, because it's like.
All right, you guys did a very nice job in your groups talking with one another, and when I came around and challenged some of you to add a little bit more to your thinking, you did a nice job with that. So we're going to do whole class share right now. I'm just going to randomly call on some people. So, just explain what you said and kind of elaborate a little bit on your thinking, okay? And who can remember when we're sharing whole class, what are some of the things we need to keep remembering to do? Like,
To listen to the other person that's talking.
yeah, so how do I know you're listening to me when I'm talking, Mike?
When you make direct eye contact and you're looking at them.
Cool. What else should we remember? Anything else we should remember, Amini? Not to talk, right? Make sure we're focused on that. So can everybody show me that they're really focused? They're not into anything else. They're looking up here. Looking pretty good. Okay. Tiara, what does the word debase mean? Okay, right, so I'm going to ask you to repeat that in a minute, but my first question is, what does debase mean, that vocabulary word exactly? So if you were debasing someone, what might you be doing? You might be being rude, because what does debase mean? Right, Tony, you want to help out?
It's like a lower statute, like when you hurt someone that's kind of mean and bad.
Okay, so like you kind of make one feel like a lower status, right? You're kind of mean to them, just like she was saying, like rude or bad. What are you gonna say, Avi?
I was gonna say like put them down, like maybe you'll feel like, oh, like you'll talk to people that they want to hang out with and be like, don't hang out with her or him, and then they'll come and ask and they'll say no.
Okay.
Like, tell them that to like let them be involved.
Yeah, because the thing is, when we were talking about acceptance, and you guys were talking about like the lunchroom, and you were saying things like, like when people will be like, there'll be empty seats at a table, and someone will come, but they're like, oh, there's no room left, or something like that, or you'd like kind of exclude people from your group. So that's a good connection. I like that. Okay, so Tiara, you then read some things from the poem that were examples of debase. Can you tell me your first example from the poem that you think is a piece of evidence that would be showing someone debasing someone, and then tell me why? Yeah, so that first part you had.
So the basis the young age by putting up a keep off sign, and young the basis the old by trespassing and disrespecting.
Okay, good. So let's look at here. So you thinks down the keep off signs, right? So the old age are sticking them up. So how is that showing debasing?
By how they were just being
Okay, very nice. Good, thank you. Now, did anyone have a different place? As I was going around, a lot of you, which makes sense because it's the first part of the poem, you notice right away, oh, that's an example of debasing, if people are yanking signs down. Did anyone get further into the poem and cite another a specific example of text that would support this thinking? Aaron?
It says they use blast at them, so that you're debasing them, because then you can find them.
Okay, good, excellent. All right, so now let's move on to this, because I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this painting. So what I want you to tell me is what you think is like the artist's message. What's he saying about the old, and how do you know that? Okay, so I'm gonna call on someone. Oops, that person's absent. I'm getting absent people. Allison, can you tell me what your group said about that painting?
We said that the older people are like on the outside of the young, because in the picture it shows the younger people are in the older faces, and they're seeing themselves like grow up and see what they're doing to the old.
Okay, can you explain that part? I liked when you said they're like outside of the old. Can you elaborate? Like, what do you mean by that exactly? I like that thinking.
Like the older people, they're looking at each other, and the young are inside them, and they're watching themselves, kind of.
Okay, so who are the young people then inside these old people's heads, do you think? They're
kind of not appreciating the old, like they're having fun, and
okay, that was good. I was just kind of challenging you a little bit to kind of think about that. I like that. All right, let's hear another example. Sanaya, what did you say?
I said like the old still belongs for youth by having like the young boy singing to the girl in their faces.
Okay, so how do you know, what makes you think that they're longing for youth?
Like they still, I'm making like there's still youth inside of them, so even though they're like old and brittle, they still kind of have like that free spirit that's inside of them.
Like the playing the music and singing to a girl. Okay, awesome. So do you think these young people, who do you think those young people might be?
I think they're the old people.
Okay, so how many of you thought that the young people were like the young versions of the older people? All right, cool, nice. All right, someone want to share a little bit more about the painting that I didn't call in but would like to share? Very good. Does anyone know what para siempre means? Para siempre. Won't be like a literal translation. Anybody? It means forever, always. Okay, so now think about that. If you know that it means forever, always, take a minute and just turn to the people at your table and think about why that's a good title for this piece right here that you see. So forever, always, and then talk just a minute, kind of table talk about why is that an appropriate or a good title for this piece. And I'm going to call in somebody randomly, so make sure we're having that discussion, okay? Got a minute on the clock.
Everyone is
30 seconds.
well, no, it shows they're like, yeah, it shows they're one half.
All right, 10 seconds. Okay, I'm glad that you guys, like the voices just picked up right when I asked you to. That was awesome. Owen, what did your group say?
We said that like they're always forever young because they always have like in this picture they have a younger version of themselves, or like I thought they had a younger version of themselves inside the older versions.
Oh wow, okay, very cool. And that expression, who's heard that expression forever young before? You ever heard that before? I hear that all the time. Maybe you hear it when you get older, I don't know. Forever young, okay, what do you think forever young means?
I think it's saying like even though like you become old in age, like you still have like youngness inside of you.
Okay, cool. All right. How does this picture compare to kind of like the message that E.E. Cummings was giving us? So let's talk for a minute. What was the main message you think of E.E. Cummings' poem? This is kind of an off question. I'm just asking you. It's not up there or anything. But Avi, what do you think the main message of E.E. Cummings' poem was?
I think the main message is like they will always be old and they will always be young, and like the young should look up to the old because they like created they
What-
kind of created what
Okay.
they have.
Okay. What makes you think from the poem that he wants the young to look up to the old?
On the old. It says on the old.
Oh, okay, good. So owing down here, owing the old. So yeah, when you put that with it, that totally makes sense because you're saying, yeah, the young, there's all this stuff, this conflict, but you say owing the old is the part that makes you look up to him. Okay. So how is this message different in the painting then? Who can answer that one for me? So what do you think?
It's like different in the painting because like in the painting it's not much like conflict between the young and the old, it's more like they're together and then even though they're old they're still young, so it's like they want to be young and old.
Very cool. All right, so that's showing us, we can have two different like creators or authors, having a similar topic, but then maybe a different perspective on it. And that's really the focus of like what we're doing today throughout. You're going to notice. All right, so we have to do a little transition time. So listen carefully to what we're going to need to do. I'm going to need one person to volunteer to collect all the pictures for me. Tiara, why don't you do that? And then I need the notebook collectors to put the notebooks away. And then I need my handout helper. Who's my handout helper? You can help Tony too, but who else is the handout helper? Owen and Tony, can you make sure everybody gets one of these? And then I will change this and then we'll get ready to get moving. So quick transition is awesome. Thank you. So close up your notebooks so the collectors can grab them quickly. Thank you. Yep, so you're going to get a little slip of paper from either Tony or Owen, and you're going to hold on to that because that's a critical viewing question that we're going to answer when we watch a short clip in a minute. But I'm going to talk to you about a couple things. First, a little background knowledge on some things that we're going to talk about. Thank you. Thank you, all my helpers. I appreciate it.
Did everybody get one?
Did everybody get one? Yeah. Okay, you can give me the extras back, Tony. Thanks, hon. That's all right. You did a good job. Oh, look, you can give one more to Tiara. Thank you. All right. One other vocab-related question. Last week we talked about the word precept. Who can tell me what precept means? That's one of our vocabulary words. Precept. So you might have precepts about something. Do you remember? I know we just got them, and I know it's long. What are you thinking, Amini? Not? Well, let me say this. In our society, we have a lot of precepts about the way old people should act, and precepts maybe about the way young people should act. Evan?
Like standards?
Kind of, right? And then I related it to geography when we were doing that activity about different customs and ways that you act like in different countries. So yeah, kind of standards. Can you add a little, who can add a little bit more to that? Besides standards, what else?
Like expectations.
Kind of like expectations, okay? So take that idea. What are some expectations that we have for older people, do you think? And they can be a little stereotypical, but like when you're talking like with your friends or you think of older people, what are some precepts or ways of behaving that we think like older people should act? Allison?
Respecting them.
Oh, so you're talking, that's how young people should act? The precept for the young would be respecting the old?
Yeah.
Okay, so how would we say though, what do you think like older people, what would be a precept for them? Like the way maybe younger people would expect them to behave?
Like if we treat them right, then they should treat us right back.
Okay.
Like treat each other equally.
Okay, all right. What else?
They have to be mature.
Okay, mature, right? I can't like run in here and just like on a unicycle and be all silly or anything like that, can I? All right, Evan, what were you gonna say, hon?
I was gonna say like they tend to have to like act right. They like you would expect them to behave more than like a 4-year-old.
What do you mean by act right?
like if you saw like a 4-year-old like running around like screaming, you wouldn't expect an older person to do that.
Okay, all right, let's add to Sanaya.
Well, like, you usually think of like elder people not knowing how to use like the newer technology.
Okay, so old. She said she had older people. They don't really know how to use like the newer technology. So that might be, you might expect them to not be able to do those things. Oh, now we're getting some idea. Here we go, Avery.
I feel like the older people should be role models to younger people.
Okay, so like setting good examples, right? All right. Anything else? Evan?
You know that thing about like old people like get off my lawn? I've actually seen that.
Like old people like yell out of their house and like say, "Get off my lawn, kids!"
Yeah,
like.
like in Washington where I used to live, we were going by. I was going by on my bike, and there was this old dude who put like a lot of signs in his yard about like how he didn't like the mayor and how they're like running the city and everything.
Okay.
And then I see this one kid who's like and it looks like he was building a house. Because it like wasn't like I don't know, like a normal house.
Right.
They had a door on the second floor that led to nowhere.
Okay, relating it to what we're talking about with the precepts. So then what did this person do with the house?
So there was this kid like on his yard because he had this big ramp, and he was like going down it on his skateboard.
Oh, there you go, skateboards. There we go.
Guy comes out with his cane and he's like, "Get off my lawn!"
Oh my gosh, yeah, just like you see in movies and stuff like that. How many of you have ever been maybe yelled at or scolded by an older adult in public or somewhere? Okay, let's talk about precepts for the young real quick. What are some precepts that you think society has for young people? Like maybe let's say teenagers, because you're all teenagers. Let's talk about that. What do you think?
Respect like the elder people, like your parents and teachers.
Okay, so that's what we want. We'd say, oh, they should be respecting their elders, their teachers. What else, Brady?
That they usually know how to use all the newest technology.
Yeah. A lot of times they're like really quick, if you need help on a computer or like video games or something like that, you can help out. What else, Michael?
Like that they're kind of stupid.
Okay, so what are you saying? Are you saying a precept is that teenagers are stupid, or like you think that's what people think? Okay, not true though, right? But that's like one of those stereotypical things. Why do you think that is something like you would say? Because some people kind of laugh, and I would never say that because, I work with teenagers and I think you guys are like some of the smartest, most intelligent, creative people I know. So why do you think that adults sometimes have this idea or stereotype that teenagers are not the smartest or things like that?
My parents say it.
You hear your parents. Okay, so you just posed the question, all right? So what were you going to say, Anthony, to add to that?
They sometimes do stupid stuff.
What do you mean by that?
Like they do things they'll get in trouble for when they start doing it.
Okay, all right. Evan?
A lot of times older people think that young teenagers are like just trouble.
Okay.
See a person on walking around, you might think, oh, that's trouble.
Okay, so you're seeing this real world connection of like this issue that we've seen in the E. Cummings poem, this like sort of conflict. And I wanted to talk about that because we're going to watch something called Mind the Gap. Now, mind the gap, you have to understand what that expression means because the critical question leads to it. Does anyone know what mind the gap means? Oh, have you seen it before, Sanaya? Where have you seen it?
I was going to. No, when I lived in New Jersey in the apartment building, we had a train station right next to it, which was torture. But when I was walking to the car out in the parking lot, it was at the train station, and I was saying mind the gap.
Yeah.
In between, so basically saying if you walk in it, you're gonna fall.
You'll fall in it, right? So yeah, this is like a term. It's used on she's saying train stations or railway passenger cars to be careful when you're crossing that space. And if you've been to Chicago and been on some of the trains there, the metro, you would know that when you're going from the platform to the actual car, there's this space here, and they're saying mind that, watch it. You don't want to fall down there and get hurt. Okay. So I did that because what we're going to watch is a clip from the Assisted Living Organization of America. It's a short film. They do a short film competition, and it's meant to kind of raise awareness of ageism, this whole stereotype that people have about people that are a little bit older and things like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to watch it. It's relatively short. And remember, whenever you're watching, it's not like you have the text right in front of you. So I gave you these little question sheets here so you can kind of jot down some notes to help with your discussion as you watch, because it goes by pretty quickly. It says, using evidence from the film, explain why you think the creators of this piece would use the warning, mind the gap, as their title. So you're going to be watching it, but you're going to be thinking the whole time, why did they call this mind the gap? Because mind the gap's kind of a warning. So be thinking about that, because that's what your discussion is going to be about. So while you're watching, you're going to be independently answering that question, and then kind of then talking about it as a whole group. I'm gonna do this for a minute so you guys can see. All right, so let me get this set up. I think my sound is pretty good. I checked it this morning. So are you guys all ready to watch? Yeah. Good? Excellent. All right, yeah, so you can get set, and then when it's going, you can show that. And yeah.
I saw the way he looked at me.
Like everyone my age is the same.
As if I had nothing to offer the world around me.
People that age will never see what I'm capable of.
Or what I have to offer the world.
They don't understand my enthusiasm for life.
The wisdom I have to offer the world.
The determination and drive.
I mean, I'd really like to help the guy.
Kind of looks like a loner.
I wonder if he's got a family too.
Care for him.
Show him the way.
If he'd give me a chance,
I'd listen to what he has to say.
Nice day for a run, eh?
come here every morning? I don't know why I try. People that age,
they're all the same.
I feel bad stopping before the credits come. All right, so what you need to do right now at your tables is you need to address that question that's on that little sheet of paper and try to pull specific things that you saw into your discussion, and so that way you can share them out with the whole group, okay? So go ahead, I'm gonna give you about 1.5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes to go ahead and have this conversation.
You don't want to mind the gap in like the age. Because the one guy was like really young and the other guy was like really old. And then so they both felt that they were ignoring
like how they want
They don't really there's a big gap in between people who are older
they still want to
like they wanted to give each other like a chance. Like remember when they were running and they were like, how about I ask you this, how about I ask you that, and then they just couldn't
So yeah, so if you guys were writing that up, let's say, and then I was like gonna click that to look at to see how you were able to kind of like get that message and like how you could relate it to what you saw. What specific things would you write down in your response? You guys might want to actually write that down and say, so like what could you pull specifically from the film that would relate to what you're talking about? Do you guys know that? So then try, and it's hard when it's visual and you don't have like actually like lines to cite. It's kind of like when we were doing the painting, you got to actually look at it and then kind of describe like what you saw or what you heard. Okay? But that's good. I like that. So did you guys kind of look through and kind of like specific things? Like so you talked about why you think it's called Mind the Gap? Why?
I think.
So what were we saying?
Okay, so yeah, what are they minding then?
All you this noisy, loud, and then he's just like
Alright, so what is the warning though? So mind the gap's a warning. So I want you guys to think about, I love everything you're saying, you're absolutely right with like the details, but I want you to think about then why call it like a warning? Like what is the creator of this piece like trying to warn people about or tell them about? Okay, so I want you guys to think about that and discuss that a little bit, okay? Okay, about 20 seconds. You guys talked about like why it relates to the mind the gap.
Like there's a big gap in between youth and old age, and then like that they stay on that pretty much like their own age, and then like you don't want to
make sure you okay. Right, so make sure, I like what you're saying, it relates to the warning. Can you pull something specific from the film, like that you saw or heard, that could enhance that a little bit to support it? That's what I'd like you guys to do now. Does anybody need a little more time, or are we good? You need a little more time? Okay. Make sure you're answering why it's called Mind the Gap. You know, Mind the Gap is a warning, so tell me what we're being warned about. Did you guys say the warning part? Is that what you're doing right now? Okay.
They weren't trying to.
All right. Can I have your attention back up here again? I heard some really great discussions as I was going around. Nice. Let's see. Emily, what did your group say about that question? So, you know, using evidence from the film, why do you think the creators call this or give this warning, Mind the Gap, as its title?
We said that they use Mind the Gap to like show like the gap in their age because they were like stereotypical towards each other.
Okay, so you think the gap, instead of like, you know, train platform, like, okay, it's the gap in age. Okay, so what's the warning you said? So there's this gap in age. I like that part. That's a good connection.
Excuse me, can you please send Michael Furness to the main office?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
So we have the gap that relates. Then what is the warning about?
Like that they are stereotyping each other.
And what evidence from the film shows, like, led you to believe that?
Because they kept saying that like they wouldn't care, like when they tried to talk to each other.
Okay. Can we elaborate a little bit more? Someone else from your table that like that you guys talked about. What evidence from that actual piece would show what Emily's talking about?
At like the end, they like turned and started walking away from each other, and they both said, "Why do we even care?"
Oh.
They never listen. They always think I'm different.
Okay, so what do you think the warning is, like the author's point or message of this? You're there, you're almost there.
That like they think that they're different.
Okay, that they think that they're different, so we've got to watch that. And then what do you want to add to that, Evan?
I was gonna say they think they're different, but really both of them just wanted to talk, but neither of them could hear.
Okay.
Like the one time the old guy was trying to talk, the kid had his earbuds in, and like the time he didn't have his
The hearing aid, yeah.
the hearing aid.
Okay, very good. And see how you guys all work together to get that going? Awesome job. All right. So, very nice. What I want us to do now is have one person from your table kind of gather those up. I'll take those from you. We're going to get into small groups. I put the small groups up here. I just need you to get seated. Then I'm going to give you instructions. And then the good chunk of this remainder of time is going to be you working really hard on looking at a pretty challenging article related to this topic that we've been talking about today, okay? So if you forgot what your groups are, I do have them posted up there. They were the same groups you guys were in on Thursday. So if we could take this time, you're going to need something to write with and your belongings, make sure everything's packed where it needs to go, and head to your table locations, and then I'm going to give you instructions from there, okay? Good job. Yep. And then as soon as you are seated and looking at me, I know that you are ready for our instructions. Good, yeah, pack, now that you've moved, take your backpacks and put them back under the table for us. Thank you. It's hard for me to walk around. I'm gonna fall down, and you guys know that's gonna be sad. We good? Almost, we're there. And eyes up here. Fabulous. Okay, so I did all that stuff like with you guys at the beginning to kind of practice this idea of taking different things like poems, different pieces of art, you know, a video or a film, and how you can like take all of those things, kind of pair them up, and get a better understanding. You're going to get another format of a text today. In a little bit, I'll send one person from your group to go get the materials from your numbered folder. But in there, you're going to have a copy of I'm going to tell you guys, this is a really challenging article. Okay, so you're going to really need to work together to get through this. I mean, it's a pretty high reading level. It actually comes from a psychology journal, but it relates very much to what we've already been talking about in class, some of those precepts that we have about the young and the old, and also the different ways that maybe the young and the old debase one another, and, you know, relating to that clip, that age gap. It's called Stereotypes and the Older Worker, okay? I want you to really work together through this. We know informational text can be very challenging, but we also know that it's really important because a lot of times that's where we get a lot of information about real world issues and things going on. So here's what's going to happen in your groups after you get your materials. The first thing you're going to do is go through the article and you're going to read it. I want you to use your annotation strategies of just, you know, underlining key ideas. You don't need to go crazy on it, but I want you kind of going through and seeing if you can pick out, reading it together, what the key ideas are. You can read with stopping points if you want, or you can do reading aloud. Just remember, it's like we're at a restaurant. We don't want to be so loud that we're disrupting everyone around us, okay? Then in your folder, there's also a set of guiding questions. These questions are going to lead you through some things to kind of help you think more critically about what it is you're reading, and also kind of help you kind of break it down and analyze and make sense of this piece, okay? So it's going to ask you things about credibility of the source. What does credibility mean? We talked about that before. If a source is credible, what does that mean?
sort of if like you can like give them credit and they're like are a reliable source that's like
What was that word you just said?
reliable.
Yeah, there we go. It's like a reliable, something trustworthy, right? Very good. There's questions on there relating to like the key idea, if you're able to grasp that. And also there's questions on there relating to comparing texts, just like we've done, and then making real world connections. And then there is a thinking critically and creatively piece on here, which I think is kind of fun when you get to it. I have two pictures of two heads here. And then your task is going to be to draw or place words in there of what you think is going on inside of a young person's head, okay? So today in your groups, I want to see the continuation of this great work that we've been doing, making sure that you're reading carefully, going back to the text.
Excuse this interruption. Will Carter Devine please come to the main office?
Going back to the text and reading the questions carefully, and then we'll be around to kind of help you as needed, but we want you guys to really kind of struggle through it and see if you can make sense of it. The last 7 or 8 minutes, I'm going to call us back together, and then I'm going to kind of maybe call in some people, kind of hear your thinking about what you read about, and just have a little bit of closure for that. Does anyone have any questions about what we're going to be doing with the remainder of the time? Okay, I guess you need to select one person from your table and make sure you get your numbered folder that matches your number up there, and then you guys can get started, okay? Go ahead. Oh, you brought your stuff. You're going to put your jacket on. Are you going to type on your, have one person do like writing it out too, Brady, and then you can type up some stuff on your forte too, all right? Are you going to do your one on your, are you going to do it on your forte, you think? Yeah, just make sure you do the numbers for me so I can, when I look at it, I know what question you're doing, okay? Okay. Well, everybody, get going. Everybody's writing because there's a sheet for everyone in there. You guys are going to discuss. You go. And then see. Da-da-da-da-da. Ah. See how magical I am? Now don't, if you're very artistic, don't start with that art piece. Just wait, okay? Start with the other stuff, and that's sort of your ending activity there. And I will see conversations, right, and discussions about how we're reading this. So how are you guys in this group going to be reading? Have you decided? Are you going to, maybe I would like to see this group kind of do read aloud, because sometimes if we just do it independent, we get off like on a different pace, and I really want you guys working together on this. So maybe you could take turns reading like, different chunks of it and underlining the key ideas. That would be excellent. Does that sound like a plan? Okay. So in this group, how are you guys doing this? Because I want to see, remember that we're all kind of working together on this. So I suggest that we would read, why don't you guys maybe read aloud, take turns, and then underline key ideas as you go, okay? Because some people have already started, if you guys already started answering the credibility part, but make sure you guys discuss that as well. Because if I call anyone, you should all have the same answer. Kind of same response, same thinking behind it.
By 2018, 55 to 75% segment of the workforce will increase by 11 million in employment. In 2009, study predicted accounting for almost a quarter of the working population. For the Great Recession, older workers were postponing their retirement, and that trend was only accelerated.
So you girls reading aloud?
Financial crisis.
Okay, cool. You're doing your annotations? Oh, good. So what did you guys underline this? What you thought was like an important key idea in the first part? What's the ad rap mean?
Go back.
Okay. Yeah. Negative stereo. All right, good.
Okay, let's read on. The next individual previous research has shown that managers like to create equality potential.
So what part are you guys at now? Okay. Oh, okay. Now you're reading. All right. I'm just gonna sit and listen. Okay. Yeah, you should annotate. You're always allowed to annotate. Fabulous. You can get started.
Oh yeah. No, so my her mom, really close. She got fired because of her age. She was going to work, and they said that
What's misconceptions mean?
they were trying to fire her, and so anyways, she lost her job.
Unfounded concepts.
Because
I like that. I wasn't. That you said it perfectly, but I want you to even break it down even simpler than that. Like unfounded concepts. So if you have a misconception about something, what's that mean? Yeah. Yeah. So Abby, what are you gonna say? Relate unfounded. What does unfounded mean? You don't do Okay. Well, keep reading. I think we'll explain a little bit of that as you guys get further into the article. But that was some good stuff. What do we all underline something like that we think is a key idea on that first part? Yeah. Okay. Oh, did you guys hear what Carl just said?
let's say
Say that again, Carl. Okay. You did that too? Awesome. All right. Awesome. Good. Cool. How are we doing over here? So you're reading together. You're reading together again. So who just read aloud? Owen did, and then what did you guys underline in that first part is what you think are key ideas. Everyone underlined is a key idea from that first part. And you can go back again if you need to. Sometimes your first read through, you just read it through and you can go back. So what do you think is important in that first part?
Reliable people, she made sure that this is never
Why do you think that's important? Like, what's that saying in your own words? That's the hard part, right? So what does that say in your own words? I agree that's important.
I did like 6 years.
What do misconceptions mean? Do you guys know? What is that word? Do you know what misconceptions mean? Okay, good. So what you guys were on to that. All right, keep going. Make sure you guys are taking turns reading and annotating when you go through them.
For only one of those stereotypes workers on average are less likely to engage in career development and attitude that is fostered. At least two by the training program.
So what are you gonna do when you read something and you're like, I have no idea what that means? Because they were like, you're a really good reader, and there were like some words in there that you were like, you kind of stumbled on, right? So it's hard, like I said. So what do you do if you like read that and then you're like, I have no idea, just like Sinai said. First off, I'm very proud of you for just saying, I don't understand that, because that's stage one, understanding if you know what you're reading. And the heck, what would you do? Okay, so maybe go a little slower, break in chunks, and go back and see if you can make some meaning out of it. And I noticed that you guys put a connection on your, actual article. What did you guys say? Because that was like the kind of like little extra thing you're doing there because you're just doing the KD. So what was your connection to this so far?
Well, I had a connection. My mom's friends with her mom, she at Lionel, her age, like she was working in this clothing store, but they thought that since she was old, people would want her, she wasn't stylish.
Oh, so the old people are stylish, and then like she got fired from her job.
Because she was doing some hard tasks that were like they were trying to like you could tell they were trying to figure it out, and they fired her. And they didn't say because of her age, but she actually went to like the court and told her that she got fired because of her age and
Oh, that's really interesting. Well, that is going to really play into this article as you go into it. It's good background knowledge to have, and I'm glad you guys wrote that connection. So go back to that piece, ladies, and see if you can kind of maybe make some sense out of that before you move on to your next part, okay?
What's their prayer for me? It's like scaring of the church.
I think we're on that one.
The third strategy, raising consciousness about your
All right, can we pause and kind of look back? When you look at our first page here, what were some important key ideas that you guys have picked out so far that you think are important, with this really hard piece of text here? Older employees get a bad rap in the workplace. What does it mean by bad rap? Okay, people are tough on them. Okay, good. And what else did you put in there?
Okay, whatever.
Okay, what does it mean by misconceptions? Okay. Right, and then what else? Anything else on there?
Okay, so first one.
So what does that mean in your own words? Okay. What were some specific things did it say? Some specific things that they could be discriminated against in there? In that section you had underlined? Oh, like distracting them maybe from, okay, all right. You think the younger, like, yay, I'm going to work? Oh, okay, that makes sense. All right, yeah, and it did say that right there in the text, okay? So then you're back on this page, and then you guys had circled the word, I noticed, okay? Tenure. Okay, so let's look at it in the sentence. The authors performed several regression analyses controlling the workers' tenure at a particular company in order to differentiate age stereotypes from the effects of long-term employment. Oh my goodness, right? Like that's like a whole bunch of stuff, okay? So we got to break that down a little bit. So the first part, the authors performed several analyses. So what would you say that means in your own words? Demonstrations, tests, studies, or something like that, right? Okay. Controlling workers. You guys never heard of the word tenure before? So like, let me use it in a sentence. Like,
Well, the first one it says,
if you work at a company long enough, you will get tenure, and then you will have like, more rights or things like that. So what do you think tenure is? Like sometimes like teachers get tenure, and like sometimes like in hospitals, like doctors work a certain amount of time, and they are officially considered to have like tenure. Do you guys have a clue what that means now? A little bit. How much money they get? It is kind of like you worked at a place for a long time. Sometimes if you reach maybe more, and then like you're just like it used to be like you would work like you teach for a while, and after like 3 or so years you would have tenure, and then you would have certain rights or get to do certain things that maybe newer employees wouldn't be able to do. Okay, so yeah, that's a real chunk there. So that was good. I'm glad you guys identify as you're reading like things that you are stumbling on. But you did a really good job like with that very first part. So continue. Nice job, ladies.
Increasing the
Did I sneak up on you? That's good. That's my power. Go ahead, continue. You're doing a great job.
You wouldn't put 18-year-olds and 40-year-olds because they wouldn't do it as well and put like 2 18-year-olds next to each other.
So is that saying, is that what the article is suggesting you do? Like you don't put
paragraphs. But yes, it's saying like kind of like how some of the older people are getting hired because they have like youth and they have their health still. And they can go much farther.
okay.
With kind of like older people, they're kind of like marketing, they're almost a little more convinced. Yeah, like they have that young, excited.
Is that what it said that? What part in the text said that?
It didn't really say that. That was kind of.
Can you show me what led to that? Like led you to think that? Okay, that's
Mine is the 6 stereotypes that says here. Number 1, less motivated. Number 2, less willing to train for their program. 3, more resistant to change. More manifesting. More likely to experience health problems. And more vulnerable to family conflict.
So you based that inference then really on actual stuff from the text. So very
Normally, if you were to like work in like a place or like a restaurant or something, when you saw a young person, they might think that was more like talkative, they would talk to people. And that's who hired you.
an old and grumpier person. Oh, I hope no one ever treats you like that in a restaurant. Okay, so does it feel like you guys are like understanding this article as you're going through? You're doing a good job, I noticed, breaking it down, and I like when you stop and you guys kind of talk about like what it is that you just read. I think that's helping your comprehension. So keep it up. Good job.
Because they come somewhere and
Alright, so does that make total sense to you as you read it?
Go like 2 months.
So what are you girls doing when you're reading and it's not making sense to you? Oh, that's smart. Okay, and then there's like reading, talk about it. Are you finding how's the vocabulary words in there? Words you know, big. Have you circled any words that you're unsure of as you're going along? Are there any words that you guys come up with across that you're unsure about? You can pronounce. Yeah, so it's a good strategy to remember your annotation strategy of like circling, and then like that way you guys can talk about it, or know that that's a spot you need some clarification on. Okay, good. Yep.
You know, we don't have the same exact
So as you guys are reading, are you doing the annotation strategy of just underlining key ideas as you're going along? Have you guys been doing that? I think that helps sometimes because this is super hard. Like there's some like really hard words in there, but we also want to make sure that we are kind of underlining. It helps us be active readers too, okay? So kind of like, could we go back maybe to the first page and then we could work on looking at, we could find one thing to underline that we think maybe in that first part that like kind of is related to what this article is talking about. Like are you doing key ideas, right? Awesome, You like this one, right? So can you guys tell me, I want to hear from you guys, like what you thought on that first page was something that was important that you think's a key idea. Michael, why don't you go ahead?
Most stereotypes about older workers don't go as the average age of labor force continues to rise.
So kind of try to like sort through all of it. What do you think is the main idea? Like, what is this about, like in general?
Exactly.
Okay, and then as you guys are going through, some of that hard stuff in there is going to be talking a little bit more about that. So I want you guys to continue, you're doing a good job, but I would like on this back page, as you're going, remember that underlining of the key ideas because it really helps you when you go back to answer some of these questions and you want to talk about it. It'll help guide your discussion, okay? Good deal? Okay. Thank you.
Still not a place.
So we're just working on the, so you did this first part, and then why don't you Okay, like so tell me, like you just say facts, that's pretty general. I want specific evidence. You can just go in the courtroom and say, I have facts. What are those facts, right? Okay, that's one thing, right? Is there anything else in there besides if the authors are from the university that you could, yeah. It's published.
This is the best thing. It
I
says
could get something
bottom line.
published.
The main point. Most stereotypes about older workers don't get.
What'd you say? Well, I can do self-publishing. If I pay money to get my stuff published, does that mean I'm possible? That's a trick question, right? No. Just like say you're, like I know, take down the street, just like an article, publish, and you put it like that. Just talking about published, people can see it. I don't know, right? So that's what you guys have to work through. How would you know what you're talking about? What would qualify that? You know what I'm saying? So make sure you have the evidence. What, honey? I know, because this is what it was. It was originally published in this magazine, like this journal at this time, and then it was reposted on this webpage at that time. Did you know it already? Oh, but that's a good catch because you would say to yourself, like, when was this published? Like, how do I really know, like, when this was published, right? Okay, so good. Those are good critical questions you guys are asking. Keep going.
Although all people
Alright, let's do the questions, guys.
Alright.
Who wrote this article?
Yeah. No, you can be in here because I think that's your job. Okay, so yeah, you'll be fine. So yeah, you can go around. Like they're working on some questions right now. They're pretty challenging. So it would be awesome if you kind of want to check in with some of your yeah, but he's doing it. I'm trying to get him to do key ideas like underlining and Jen's working with them. But yeah, any other groups that you would like to, I'd love that. Thank you.
managers.
Can I do just a quick check? Can you have your voices off for 1 second? You should be at this point working on the questions, right? You should be to a point where you've kind of sorted through the article or you're close to the end of that, and now you're kind of going through talking through some of those critical questions. I would ask you to kind of be a timekeeper. Keep your eye a little bit on the clock. I'm probably going to give us maybe 10 or so, more minutes, a good pace so we can have some closure, and I'm going to, just want to talk about a couple of these questions at the very end, okay? So keep going. You're doing a great job. I hear a lot of wonderful discussion. I just wanted to make you aware of the time and to kind of let you know where you should be right now. All right, so this one, now, if I go into a courtroom and I say, yes, I am credible because I have facts and statistics to back up what I'm talking about. Do I win? Why not? Oh, I have to actually give the facts? Okay, can you guys do that for me? Yep, so that's good, you're right, but now I need you to tell me which ones are like showing that they're credible, right? Yep, there you go. There you go. Can you tell, how do you know they did a lot of research for that first question? You're up. Do you think maybe some of that should get on here so I know like you guys saw that? Oh yeah, do that for me because you're right. I love that you were able to go right back to that place in the text and just tell me about that. But that's like the good stuff that supports your thinking. All right. Okay. Are you guys on the first question right now? So you think this is a credible source? What evidence from the text helps us determine if this information is trustworthy? Now, some groups I've been going to have just been saying, well, there's facts and statistics in it. And I say, like, I can't just walk in somewhere and say, I have facts and statistics, so, you guys should believe me, right? What do I have to do? Yeah, right, with, like, the real stuff. So that's what I would challenge you to do with that first one. Find something from the text that actually shows you that these authors are people we should be believing. Does that make sense?
Research has shown that managers.
You guys are doing a good job here. Did you answer that? Oh yeah. Oh, and you put specific facts in there. Yeah, make sure you're getting that evidence of like why it's credible. Good. You guys have a couple things there like that. All right. Let me see your answer to your first question. Okay. Oh yeah, you guys. You added the. Did you have anything besides universities? Something in the actual text that was said?
How about the evidence?
Oh wait, hold on. You're on question 2. I was talking about the first question. What did you say about they have what? Oh, they've done tests? Where does it say that? I want that. In there. So you're absolutely right. So you underlined it as a key idea. I remember that. So why don't you get that in your response there? Because that's your evidence, right?
Or we can do this too, which is which one
don't have, yeah, that was
This one? Oh, I'm just reading you writing over your shoulder. It's all right. You know me. I sneak up on you.
Do you guys think number 1 or 2? I think blood evidence.
Oh, you guys chose number 1? Cool, and you get my evidence right?
go get our code. So one of us yeah, you have it.
Did you need a poem, Amber? You're welcome. Oh, wait. Is that the poem you needed? Which one? You all should have the Anchor Tech, the James Berry one. Yeah, that's the one with the syllabus. I think, I know Maddie has that, right? What do we do with a variation? With James Berry? You have that, because that was what we did 2 weeks ago. No, you guys have that. We haven't, talked about it a lot, because we're going to keep coming back to that text, but this is one of those times where we can go back to that text. Ah, there it is. It's got that guy in there, see, look. Hold on. Hey, you guys have this? Yeah, so you need one copy of it to look at, so you're good. And then go back to it. Awesome. You're typing in here. You're going to get through what you can today, and then if we need to finish something up and or something, so don't worry about it. It'll be okay. So just keep going with your group, okay, honey? Oh, when's the timekeeper? Got about 6 more minutes or so. So from here, you guys choose one, right? And now you guys talking through this. Evan, you're not working too far ahead, are you? Oh, she's dead? Okay. Oh, are you guys, so you're doing one and they're doing, you guys broke the group. Okay. Oh, well, that's a good way to solve it. That sounds good. And then you just settled it that way. I love it. All right. How are we doing over here? So are you guys on where you're selecting? Now, which one of those you're going to select? It's got to be a quick decision. What are we going to do? One? All right. So how do the key ideas discussed in this article you just read compare to the key ideas in Mind the Gap? Okay, so then for this one, you gotta determine the key ideas of both texts and then kind of compare with evidence, so you know what you're talking about. So think back about what you watched and then about this and make a comparison. Can you guys do that?
They know what to expect from the older.
Okay, here we go, on here. Few ideas, this is gonna be short here. And I know you ladies are very thorough in everything you do. So this is gonna be a very short, quick one. I'm gonna stand here while you do it, all right? So what is the key idea? And you're gonna write it down real fast. Our key idea is sort of the main gist or what this is about. Oh yeah, okay, read the bottom line thing. That's a good use of your text features. What's the bottom line? So,
the bottom line is that people don't hire older younger people.
All right, stop. Beautiful. Get it down on the paper. We're gonna stop it at that one, right? I know, right? You know me. I'm just making sure. Right here.
Managers typically favor potential over experience.
Lawyers.
Let's go away. So we stop that.
And then you're gonna leave that one and move on because I know you girls with your details. You're good, but you can be on that forever, right? Adding the perfect words. You're good.
Oh, do we really go away? Because they want to go
All
away.
right, which one did you guys do? Choice 2? Okay. Okay. Well, all right, then do that. I'm gonna step away while you do that. That sounds great.
Okay, so
Which one did you guys choose for this? Topic 2. All right, so the lines are, do we work for it to disappear in life? Okay, so then you have to tell me why you selected that line and relate it to this text, right? That's the hard part. Okay, so
why don't we pull out some text? Like the bosses of some companies kind of more like that. And they want like back to like the younger people.
okay, so get that into writing on here as supporting, and then maybe even strengthen that with what you just said, finding something from here that like could support that. I like that. Okay. How are we doing? Yep, keep working boys together, because I'm going to stop this in about 3 minutes or so, and then we're going to talk a little bit, okay? And then you got to make it to 4, okay? What, honey? That's one of those hard words. Circle it.
It was a movie. And we both
All right, can I have you guys pause for 1 second? This is going to be the 2-minute warning, right, before we have our closure. But listen up. I know that some of us, you're working through the article. It's really hard. You may not get to that creative piece. If you don't get to it today, that'll be the first thing we'll start as our warm-up tomorrow. So don't stress if you're not to that piece. I would like you to try to get through the 4 questions, and I'm looking around. Most of you are to that point. And then you got just 2 minutes, and then I'm going to come back together, and we're going to kind of talk through some things, and we'll follow up with the creative piece a little bit tomorrow. Okay? So continue.
there we go. I got it.
What'd you draw? Trying to draw a bunch of wrinkles? Uh-huh. What are you drawing, Tom? Brainstorming. I like your brain. That's cool. Yeah, and then good. Make sure you guys get to 4, because that kind of like brings it all together. And then if you don't have time for that creative piece, we'll focus on that as our warm up first thing tomorrow. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was 2 minutes, believe it or not. I need you all to put your pencils down, end your conversations, even if you're kind of in the middle of a spot, it's okay. And when you do that quickly, so pencils down. Thank you. And nice. Oh, show me your great and amazing posture, right? And eye contact. Okay, pencils down, not even in your hands, you'll be tempted. All right, and then we're going to do whole class, so we're going to kind of just listen. I just want to kind of talk through it. I went around to each group and checked in, so I feel like you're getting an understanding, but I want to make sure that we kind of all come together and talk about it real quick. So first off, credibility. Who can very quickly tell me, with some evidence, why we think this would be or would not be a credible piece? Okay, Gracie.
This is a credible source because they did a lot of research on the topic, and like, in many places they said like, in 2010 according to the U.S.
Bureau.
Yeah. And like after researching several databases and stuff like that.
So you pulled the actual content. This group over here, what was another thing that you guys said was a credible thing? Like the first thing you wrote down why you thought it was credible? Yeah, the authors were connected with a university, so those types of things when you're looking at it. Key idea, who can very succinctly tell me what the key idea of this piece is? Like the main key idea is what? Aaron?
Employers hire youthful employees over older ones.
Okay, that's part of it, right? And what did you have, Evan?
No stereotypes about older people and misconceptions.
Okay, and I think if you meshed kind of like what you two had together, it relates definitely to our workplace there. Okay, so comparing the text, who can, and I think I want someone from this table maybe, right? Evan or Anthony, what you guys did the what do we do with a variation poem, because that's our anchor text for this unit. What line did you select and why?
We chose do we will it to go away because like they kind of like didn't want the old people to be working anymore.
Who's they?
The employers.
Okay. Did you guys find something specifically from your text that related to that? So you had do we will it to go away, and then what from the informational text did you guys have to support that, Omni?
We kind of wrote down like they want the older people. We consider widely how like misconceptions that led often to age discrimination.
Okay, relating it to age discrimination and kind of maybe going back and maybe like if we had more time and in a future lesson we might want to go back and just like expand on that, make sure like we explain that in our own words. But I really like that line you selected. That was a really good selection. I think it fits very well with this piece. Okay, did anyone do mind the gap? How does it relate to mind the gap? Did we do that one? A lot of you were. Avi, what did you guys say about that?
We said it relates because, like, mind the gap was telling, like, the old people's side, kind of, how they see, and then there's, like, the stereotypes of older workers and, like, the younger side, like, what they think.
Okay.
So, like, they kind of fit, like, the old and the young, what they think about each other.
Okay, all right. Now this was really, really hard, and you guys really worked superbly, like going through and breaking things down. I saw you employing a lot of good reading strategies as you were going through. We're gonna finish up first thing tomorrow because I do want to hear your creative pieces, and I want to give you a little bit of time to think about that a little more critically. So we need to pack this up and keep it in your folders. You guys can move back to your seats. Great job today. Yeah. So did you guys put it, did you save it on the Forte for me? It's saved, so we can print it tomorrow, right? Okay. All right, make sure you have cleaned up around you and you are not leaving things on the floor, please. So you keep the Forte with you, right? You have your own, don't you? Do you need it? You have your Rhino? Okay.
100%
All right, look around. Don't leave any of your books around or anything like that. Yeah, that's what I would do. That's a good idea. Make sure we're by our seats. And be careful. Yeah. Bye. Have a good day, everybody.